There we go. I think we're up and running.
Yes, we are. This is
Here
the
we go.
famous Monday.
27th.
Sorry?
The 27th of January. We are what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days away from the 1st of February.
Yes, 1st of February, which for us in North America, or particularly Canada, the US, is going to be interesting, man.
Yes, it could be. Didn't you remember what year the British Crown decided to do the Domesday book? Maybe this will be the North American equivalent of the Dome or Doomsday.
Well, you know, it's a black day in February might be watershed moment for a lot of people in particularly Canada who are really, I think, still sleeping, don't understand what the implications are of the Trump tariff threats. I saw the Minister of Foreign Affairs this morning asked about what she thought the impact would be, particularly if she were to look at how Colombia reacted to the tariffs.
The deportation plane?
Yeah. And we got, well, let's just go back and say what happened to Colombia. Colombia didn't want to take back the Colombia nationals that were rounded up by ICE. And the president of Colombia was told that, well, that's fine. We'll just put a 25% tariff on you. Colombia exports coffee by and large to the United States, right? 25% tariff, and if you don't get the attention that's necessary, we'll raise it to 50. And plus, they banned all visas for Colombia. I mean, just basically brought the hammer down. And within an hour, the president of Colombia decided that he will send his personal plane to the U.S. to pick up these miscreants with Colombian citizenship and happily take them back. And that was that. Anyway, the story being that our Minister of Foreign Affairs was asked that question, what do you think? And of course, you got smoke and mirrors from the woman who said, well, you know, we have all the tools at our disposal, the usual drivel, without really saying it. It was so juvenile. And I'm thinking, boy, oh boy, oh boy, they must be watching this video in Washington. And forget Trump, he's not watching this, but the people around him are watching it and just going, boy, this is going to be easy pickings.
Well, I guess it goes back even with the first. We're going to remove 100 million people from the U.S. who shouldn't be here. Great thing to say. But you know as well as I do in the business we're in that it's not always that simple.
Correct.
But when you get down to a point where money walks and
yes,
the other part of it,
money walks.
The other part of it,
bullshit.
You've got a big corporation that says, yeah, okay, don't take them back, but we're going to hit you, maybe not quite below the belt, but we're going to hit you, and you're going to feel the pain, and you're going to feel the agony, and you know, we in Canada certainly don't have that clout. You know, first and foremost, we still got 4.5 million people here who we don't know if they're still here or not. It's a completely inane situation. And even if we did manage to get those 4.5 million people all rounded up, could we arrange to get them back to their home country? You know, I remember when I worked at the airport, and you know, we had people who were coming up from Central America, and we would talk to the Mexican consulate. The Mexican consulate would say, that person's not Mexican, he's from Guatemala. Because I guess they can discern the different accents and things far more than we can. And we're kind of stuck saying, well, how do we deal with this? Which country do we remove them to?
Yeah, well, I mean, Tom Holman basically has gone after the low-hanging fruit. It's easy to go into the jails or whatever where these people are incarcerated, they already have paperwork on them. They probably have their passports or would have been identified through whatever Interpol or I mean, these are criminals we're talking about. This is just not your garden variety administrative, BS for immigration and refugee issues. So these people are the first wave I can see being very successful. It's like the cream on the top of the milk. You can scoop that off pretty easily, but it'll be a lot tougher going down, drilling down deeper into the community. That should be removed. Now, in pre-production, you said something that's very true. If you cut off the flow of support to these various groups that currently are able to reside in the U.S. or Canada, because there's all sorts of ways to pay the bills through NGOs or directly through the government. If that pipeline of money dries up, they self-remove to a large extent, because just as easily as they got to the Americas, they go back to where they came from. And they're remitting literally billions of dollars every year anyway back home. And we're talking about the illegals that are not criminals, which is a whole different thing. But I saw, for example, the angst among the elites. Oh, who's going to cut our grass or work in our restaurants? Well, maybe if you actually paid people to cut your grass and work in your restaurants, you wouldn't be relying on slave labor.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of hearing this stupid refrain about, there's all these people who are going to be hard pressed rather to get work done around the house. I don't care. Wash your own underwear.
Well, and you're right. It gets down. My sister-in-law, who no longer with us, worked in the food industry in the United States, and they get a pittance on their hourly wage, and then they're taxed because they're taxed on the basis of what the government thinks they would have made in tips. So she said there were a couple of times where she actually owed money at the end of the 2-week period because the tips weren't coming in, and so it's just you can't treat people like that. And you're right. If you want somebody to do your laundry, well, maybe you have to be paying them the $10 or $15 an hour to get them to do that. You want somebody to pick your fruit or your vegetables. You got two things: pay them or bring in like 6-month temporary work visas. They come in, they go home. Exactly. I think you would probably find a great many itinerant workers who wouldn't think that would be a bad idea.
Anyway, this is the old hoary tale of, all those poor people who are here illegally, they won't have a job. Well, they shouldn't have a job anyway. I mean, the whole point of the thing. And frankly, you were mistreating these people all along anyway. This is the dichotomy that gets me crazy, where you have these leftists all teary-eyed about the poor illegal migrant, and a lot of the rich lefties are exploiting them.
Yeah,
we don't want to talk about that.
Well, and I guess that's the other bit of a bear bug that I had. They'll pick up the cause, as in the case we have here now of the environmentalist who came over here on a student visa and has been charged and convicted of several things, not criminal things, but relating to obstruction of traffic and blah 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 blah, and he's under deportation order, and everybody is saying he shouldn't be deported. But how many Canadians do we have? How many permanent residents do we have that could use that kind of support? A GoFundMe page. We're going to have a GoFundMe page because when he goes back to Pakistan, he's not going to have 3 cents to rub together. Well, I'm sorry, but there, we've got how many people here now that are on food banks? How many kids in our schools are going without 1, maybe 2 meals a day? It's just that's what bothers me the most. We'll pick up these and again, even our neighbors to the south. When the person's making my Lacoste t-shirt in Indonesia is only getting paid $10 a day. They should be getting proper wages. Well, $10 a day over there is like getting about $100 an hour. And we just don't have the capacity to think beyond the realm of our own neighborhood or our own country, you know. And I guess that's part and parcel of what's going on now with the maybe the switch in politics now. We're going from the extreme left to the extreme right because we're on that pendulum swing again. I think we've talked about that before. And, you know, will it ever stop kind of in the middle? I don't know, but it would sure be maybe a nice thing to strive for.
Yes. Well, yeah, it's amazing. This guy's been in office a week, and he's done more in a week than the previous U.S. administration seems to have done in 4 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable how many things he promised to do, and he's doing it. And this is really refreshing in a way, because most politicians give you a load of bullshit to get elected, and then when they're elected, they don't do anything, or they have all sorts of excuses on why they can't. This guy doesn't give a rat's behind. He just goes and does it, and has everybody literally exhausted following him around. This is a 77-year-old guy that's like an Energizer bunny. I don't know how he does it, but
I think you hit it right on the head, though, that he made a promise and he's keeping it, which is in today's, particularly in the West, is such a beacon of light.
Mm-hmm.
We just went through a election where the premier of the province, who took over the party, was going to give everybody in the province a $900 check to help them do this and help them do that. But all of a sudden now, because these tariffs might be imposed, well, we can't keep that promise. But he's got 48 people on his government, 47, 48. Every one of them has a portfolio. So therefore, they're getting a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, I really get advice from you on your premier, but I think he's a little bit of a twit. Just to be kind, but that's okay. The premier of the province I live in.
He's not the only one, though. I'm sure you're going to be coming through this with your needed election in Ontario.
Yeah, we need an election.
Who's already got a supermajority, who needs another supermajority.
Yeah, well, when you always talk about the left hand and the right hand, that's what this guy's doing, because he was on last week about why he needs an election. He needs an election to have a mandate to talk to Trump. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Donald Trump doesn't know who the hell you are. Okay? He's not. This is this egomania that goes on with Canadian politicians. That they think everybody in the world is got them in their Rolodex as someone to talk to. Trust me, no one's ever heard of this guy outside of Canada. But the reality is that on the 1st of February, the guy we just spoke about, is going to keep his promise. He's not. He would be in deep trouble politically if suddenly he did nothing on the 1st of February. And I think there's a lot of people who think that's going to happen, but I think they're delusional.
Oh yeah. Well, he delayed it once. He was late again.
No, I don't think, and the impact of that, of course, will be short and sharp right away. And we only need to track a couple of things to see what that means going forward. Check the value of the Canadian dollar immediately afterwards and how it progresses. Check the value of exports to the U.S., see how that does, and then see what it's going to cost Canadians to do these everything being on the table responses. And I'm almost at a loss for words here. We're dealing with an economy that's 10 times the size of ours, and we're going to get into a pissing match with it.
Well,
that just such a non-starter. That's just such a non-starter. And I read the most ridiculous arguments from well-meaning but frankly stupid people about how we're gonna stand up to this bully. Okay, that's fine. But the reality is, for forever, we've never stood up to anybody in the North-South arrangement. We've always sold it.
Yeah.
But why is this suddenly, a big deal? Why? Because
Well,
it's Orange Man?
Well, we talked a bit about this pre-production where, as we had mentioned in our teaser late last week, that I was heading out to a function. Now, again, it's a bit of a skewed function because the people that were at that were all our age.
Yes.
People that have worked hard for where they are, what they've got. Not one of them was in Canada pro-liberal. I guess pro-Democrat in the United States. I don't know what it would be over in Europe. Very, very anti-NDP. They figure that the current leader of that party has just ruined it, even as a viable option to vote for. But on the other side of the coin, it's like you said, he's looked at, President Trump is being looked at as a bully. He's got the biggest stick, and nobody likes a bully. Everybody wants to take the bully down, but there's very, very few people that have the ability or the wherewithal or the gumption to take the first strike. And even if you do, there's not going to be a lot of people lining up behind to protect you or help you. So, yeah, our leader of the opposition here in BC has said, you better be prepared to win this war, or don't bother taking it on if you don't think you're going to be able to. And I think that's what we have to learn here. We're not going to be able to take this on. There's no way we would ever win a trade war. Negotiation, like Premier Smith in Alberta is saying, maybe that's what we have to do. Maybe it seems like a chicken way out of it, but it seems to me to be the smart way to deal with it.
Well, the Canadian political scene is very strange in the sense that it tends to be sophomoric at times and then very insightful at other times. When we're looking at, for example, this leadership contest between the various players, it's clear that we have a sophomoric group who are vying for the top job in the governing party. But I mean, the fear I have is that this guy who's a nobody, never even been elected dog catcher, has a checkered kind of history working abroad in various sectors. Obviously, he was a president. He was the head of the Bank of England. Big deal. Yes. He was the head of the Bank of Canada. Big deal. Yes. But neither one of those were particularly accomplishments of any great news to anybody. In fact, if you look at what he did in the UK as the Bank of England, the press speaks very poorly of this guy. Mm-hmm. So, but what concerns me is that this guy could end up being elected by his peers in the Liberal Party, all of whom are questionable about their dedication to the country, but especially now that we have this challenge with our friends to the south. That this guy might concoct some kind of deal with Jagmeet Singh, the NDP guy, and we'll have the honor of these creeps for another year, running the place into the ground. Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Okay. Here's my prediction, Bob. If they do that, the Canada will not be the 51st state. Alberta will be the 51st state. beyond a doubt. And then you can kiss Confederation goodbye, because at that point, this post-nation concoction that he and Trudeau and his pals have invented will fall apart overnight. Okay, so there was a poll that I was telling you about taken today by well-known pollster Ipsos, and they asked 1,500 or so people what they thought about Canada being part of the U.S. And 43% of the respondents said, yeah. Okay. And not only was that 43% saying it, the majority of the people who said, yeah, good idea, were between the ages of 20 and 35. So what does that tell you?
Yeah. Okay.
We're in truly uncharted territory this time, because Trump has done something that it was always what do you call it? Not a mythical creature of a relationship between Canada and the U.S., but a model. I mean, it was something that economists spoke about in economic courses at university, or it was bandied about as what if, but never taken seriously. This time, this is not the kind of narrative that I think is going to pass just by, oh, that's never going to happen, or I don't, all this bravado or hubris being put on by certain folks in the media or in the cultural realm of Canada or what have you. I don't want to hear Margaret Atwood going on about how Canada is so great and we're going to teach the Americans a lesson. This isn't going to happen. You're dealing with a country that for the last almost 10 years has declined on so many levels right in front of our eyes.
Yeah.
If we had them open, we might have, we are really in behind the 8 ball. And when you ask Canadians, what are you proud of? They can't give you an answer. Well, wait a minute. What's patriotism? They can't tell you what patriotism is anymore. You tell old people, they go talk about the war. Well, the war's been over for 80 years.
Yeah.
Well,
that, we had just a small smattering that over in the island. It was about a 30-second clip on TV. A veteran, now out of the military, went to the Service Canada building because during the last major windstorm, the Canadian flag had got caught on a tree and was in tatters. And he went in and simply said, "You're a Canadian representative of the Canadian government. Your flag's in tatters. It should be replaced. Not our problem. We don't own the building. We're only renting it."
Yeah. So that is a small example of who cares. But I get into little discussions with my peers here, or our age. They go on about things like, well, I really think we have a better healthcare system than those damn Americans. I go, what are you talking about? They equate being pro-Canadian as being anti-American, and I'm going, you're the same guy that goes to Arizona, for 3 months. Apparently, you don't dislike him that much because you're down there, want to talk sports. All they talk about is NFL football. Well, wait a minute, those awful Yankees are playing a game that we don't even have in this country. But you're keen on whatever team they go on about. Stop this. So there's this love-hate relationship that many folks have, particularly older people. That's why I say it was startling to see this 43% saying yes, but the majority of those 43% saying yes, a deal with the U.S. would be good. Those are young people. They have seen their dreams go nowhere for the last 10 years, or downplayed, or their jobs taken by people who just showed up from halfway around the world and can't even talk to them. I mean, this is a very different environment from what the theoretical conversations in the past took place between people in Canada about what happens if the U.S. Was to become more integrated with Canada or vice versa. So
Yeah.
it's tough,
I think,
and I don't know how this bunch in Ottawa has the smarts, frankly, to take on our adversaries, because they're adversaries. Let's be frank here.
yeah, yeah. Although, I'll wrap it up on that point by saying you best watch out, because I see behind you, you've got a whole massive amount of sand.
Yes.
There'll be a lot of people heading to your place so they can bury their head in it.
Well, some of them have got to pull it out of their backsides first before they can dig it.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. Anyway, it's we'll leave it at that for now, because the first day of February we'll have more to talk about afterwards, and it's not that far down the pike.
We could again be overtaken with things, with President Trump deciding that there's no more foreign aid and money is drying up to the Ukrainian disposal pot. What's going to happen when they fired off their last shell? Is Russia as bad off as what we've been led to believe? What's going to happen with this so-called ceasefire? In
Gaza.
In Gaza, President Trump has asked the neighboring Arab states to take in some of them, and they're going, no way.
Exactly. Jordan has over 2 million of these Palestinians, and the king of Jordan told Trump to go pound salt. He doesn't want any more of these people there.
Mm-hmm.
They're just not welcome in these Arab countries.
Mm-hmm.
Full stop. That, of course, hasn't stopped our genius government in bringing 5,000 of these Hamas supporters into Canada, because they're Hamas supporters. Make no mistake, they're not refugees. They're not asking to be relieved of their fear of Hamas. They are Hamas, but they're bringing them here. And I'm going, okay, well, how are you going to explain that when they're out in front of some synagogue spray painting it?
You just hit the nail on the head. We have all these people that have been here. They're probably getting a little tired, so they need to have a rest. So we have to bring some fresh faces in to, fill in the people who want to go off on sick leave.
Anyhow, that particular suggestion by Mr. Trump, I think, is a non-starter. I don't know what he believes that will work. Certainly,
it gets down to that left hand, right hand. He's throwing that out there, and somebody's caught him on it, and maybe they did see something else that was negotiable. Who knows what's going on behind closed doors in that deal?
Well, look, the state of Israel calls the shots there, and their number one ally is the United States, and that really takes precedence over anything else that goes on globally in a military from a military perspective. Yeah. There's more fear of what can go wrong vis-a-vis the United States and the military in the Middle East, and that they worry about, compared to Ukraine, Russia. Ukraine, Russia, they just cut the money off from Zelensky, and the war will be over. It's really that simple. It's a proxy war that was invented by the Americans, certain American interests back in 2014, and that's one that he can solve a lot easier by bringing the two sides together. And as soon as the Ukrainians stop killing Russians who happen to have Ukrainian passports, this can be stopped. But the last thing I heard that was being bandied about by the leftovers of the Biden administration and the Jake Sullivans of the world through Zelensky was that they were going to put NATO peacekeepers into Ukraine. Well, this is backdoor stuff. NATO peacekeepers mean putting NATO actually in Ukraine, which is precisely what the Russians will tell you to get lost on. And, as you said, what about Russians in Cuba back in the 60s, right?
Yeah.
Highly unlikely.
Here we are 50, 60 years later with the shoe on the other foot. Yeah.
Yeah. So, no more would the Russians accept that deal than the Americans would permit any interference by the Russians or Chinese or anybody else in the Western Hemisphere. They've already made that clear. Why do you think they're talking about the Panama Canal? We don't want any Russians or Chinese guys, going from one sea to the other with us not knowing or controlling it, as an example. Same with Greenland. The Danes may have told Trump to get lost on Greenland, but they were quite happy to keep the biggest air base on the island up in Thule for the last 50 years. So it's a lot of that is, I think, a lot of hooey, if I could use that word about.
Yeah, it probably would pass the censors.
Okay, yeah, the hooey's okay. So you got that, and then the other big news, apart from this. Two items we've talked about, of course, is the AI thing that today took a real jump in the news insofar as the stock market took a dive. The tech stock went down the toilet almost. NVIDIA lost a huge portion of its value, all over the Chinese having allegedly come up with an AI program that is superior to anything that the Western software developers have come up with. This AI program, if it's true that it is superior to AI programs in the West, will be exceedingly dangerous to Western interests, because all it has to do is start figuring out backdoors in the software of Western software, and basically, what do you call it when I guess it's a predator, electronic or software. The Trojan. That's it. That's the word I was looking at. But these things you're talking about. If we're to believe some of the reports, this thing eats up software. By virtue of its size and power. Because as you know, it takes a lot of juice to run all these AI programs. And part of the deal is that it requires a learning experience for AI to do what it does. So when you ask a question, it's had to learn what the answers might be over time. And that's the big thing. So the learning curve for apparently this Chinese software is way shallower and easier than the learning curve for the Western software, and it's faster and cheaper to program and uses less power. And so what you have here is a divergence essentially of software based on obviously mathematics and the power required and the smarts to run it and blah blah blah. This probably is as dangerous is allowing China to have a superiority in nuclear weapons, or any other adversary that the West might have. So this is a shocker.
What do they call it? The event horizon?
Yes.
That's why I think they've reached it. If they've come up with this thing, which, well, again, it goes back a few decades when I worked in the IT industry, and we were given these little USB keys.
Yeah.
That had your public key encryption, PKI, on it. That was 256K megabytes of infinite numbers that nobody could ever break unless they had 1,200 super Cray computers all working at the same time continually for 100 years and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, remember that.
And from what you're saying now is we've got this potential with this chip with the program that they're doing it is that maybe in 256 milliseconds, that encryption key is going to be broken. How much of our life is now dependent upon this encryption key, the unbreakable passwords, the biometrics that we think can't be replicated, but who knows what AI can do or could be doing. You know? And as people say, Elon Musk, maybe you like him, maybe you don't, maybe he's a wingnut, maybe he's not, but it was only what you said pre-production 2 or 3 months ago, we were saying we got to stop AI. This is the devil incarnate. And, he's almost bang on with what's going on. So,
well, by the way, as we're talking in your neck of the woods, the bridge between Kelowna and West Kelowna, which is apparently a very critical link in the region, was shut down this morning after a man parked his vehicle across the bridge claiming to have explosives. And the RCMP is now giving, as we speak, a presser on the thing. Yeah. So apparently an ice cream van was supposed to be rigged with explosives, and some guy had a manifesto of some kind that he published on Facebook. They've got the guy in custody. He took him to Kelowna General Hospital. So then wingnuts are loose in your neck of the woods.
Well, we've been loose for a long time out here. We're not the left coast for nothing.
Well, it's interesting. Just as I say, we're talking here, and it comes across the Chiron. All of a sudden, it's in your neck of the woods. But we're going to be impacted by this AI stuff in areas that we know really nothing really about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, AI is like Bitcoin. Most people really have no clue what the hell. Yeah, exactly what you're talking about. And Bitcoin is mysterious, and AI will get involved in it. You watch how quickly the link starts to make its presence known. And you may remember that Elon Musk, by the way, is also a Canadian citizen, much to the chagrin, I think, of a lot of our American listeners and viewers. But anyway, he said that AI was the devil incarnate. Mm-hmm. And we needed to pay attention to what exactly is going on here with it. So, yeah, we live in strange and dangerous times. But AI may turn out to be more dangerous than nuclear weapons.
Well, I'm kind of thinking, we rely so much on these devices, be it a phone, be it a laptop, be it a desktop. Who knows what AI can get in and start. I could be reading the same page on a Google search as you are, but because of your preferences, you're going to see something totally different from what I'm seeing. And is AI going to get in and start changing that so that we can't even really, can we believe what we read half the time anyway? It's all partisan information somewhere. But
Exactly. It's anyhow. We've got a really exciting time ahead of us coming up in a mere 5 days. 1st of February. Today's the 27th. You're right.
Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. The 5th day we'll start the tariffs. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering whether we should maybe wait till the 3rd or the 4th day of February to see how this is going to. It depends. We may get a few things happening before then.
Well, you know what? We'll watch it, and our readers and listeners and viewers can see if we have breaking news. If there's something that we think an over the fence conversation needs to be had over what happens on the 1st or the impact on the 2nd, 3rd, we'll do it. Because I suspect it's going to be one of those days we'll remember. especially if, in fact, any of the projections with respect to how the market will react, how the dollar will react, how the nincompoops who we put in charge of defensive plays react, we'll see. I don't know. I have to say that I'm looking at those 43% of people who were interviewed or gave their views on where this is going. I kind of share that that feeling that if a better deal is offered, and by the way, no one has told us what the offer is. Okay, like this is the part that is still outstanding for those of us north of the border here. So while Trump is full of hubris and does a lot of he's a showman. He is right off of TV. He may be president, but he has characteristics that we haven't seen in a president ever. This guy is just different.
Yeah.
So we need to pay attention to what he's saying. In particular, if at some point you have to put meat on the bones, so to speak, to the offer. And that's where the rubber hits the road and whatever the other cliche we can come up with, because there's a lot of talk by the chattering classes about what would happen if a serious offer was made to Canadians, legitimate
it's down to
passport holding Canadians.
Yeah. What you're saying though, with the young people that are kind of saying maybe we should be going to this way, these are also the same demographics that the current political party that leads this nation of ours rely on to vote. And obviously they're not sounding like they're going to be voting Liberal.
Well, I think that they can see through the shenanigans that is happening right now. I mean, the country's leadership is acting like a third world dictatorship.
Oh, absolutely.
A palace coup is taking place, and we're going to find out. We'll import some people who will fix the problem, and the same folks who've been involved in wrecking the entire place are now running around saying we're going to fix it. Well, why are you fixing what you wrecked? Why would anybody believe for 1 minute that the very people who have destroyed the place are the ones you hire to fix it? Are you kidding me? I mean, that's like having a bunch of hoodlums come into your house and they burglarize and smash everything in your house, and then a week later they come back as contractors to fix it for you. Like, seriously? Come on, this is nonsense. And the other thing, when we spoke about this, and we're at 43 minutes now, and we'll wrap this up, is that Canadians got to stop thinking like Canadians. They have to start thinking like Americans who see the big pink part on the map as part of manifest destiny. And it's not just Trump. This has been going on for a long time. And, we've been under the misapprehension for probably since Confederation that, this is all going to work out because we're pals. As the arch up your street there that says, children of a common mother. Except there's been a divorce along the way. There's been some infidelity along the way. There's been some other issues along the way.
Somewhere along the line, people in the North started with that funny, wacky tobacco, and they're not thinking straight half the time.
Yeah, exactly. We're obviously we talk about this in less sophisticated terms than economists or politicians or heads of state or whatever, but just regular folks saying, look, someone's got to give us some clear indication of what the hell you want to do here.
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, it's going to affect us. And I'm worried that if they do this wrong, there'll be a kinetic reaction by a lot of Canadians, which is unnecessary.
Yeah.
But they're playing fast and loose here.
Well,
And
I don't think they have the faintest idea. Like, this is, to them, it's I guess, using a sporting analogy, you've got a bunch of figure skaters now that have been told they're going to have to play basketball. Right? There's just no place for them to fall. There's nothing in common other than it's a sport for them to rely on and to put into play, because they've been focused going down this way and this way and this way, and now all of a sudden they got to go this way, and it's like a train. It does not stop on a dime. It takes miles to stop a train. And you're right. If it's not done right, if they aren't starting now to do that little bit of a turn to get onto the track, who knows where this is going to go.
Yeah, as I say, I was listening to a number of people chatting about this who in the U.S., not Canadians, in the U.S., who are saying, that from their perspective, they've been given a lousy deal from Canada on so many things, and that our track record in their eyes is a bunch of freeloaders in terms of the military, freeloaders in terms of trade back and forth. They were saying that the deal, just a minor thing about the dairy industry, less than 4% of the deal with the U.S. Seeing dairy products in Canada was ever enacted. And in fact, you can go to any grocery store, at least in this province, and you won't find any dairy products from the United States. It doesn't exist, even though under the deal they said that was supposed to be opened up. It's not. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you can't stand up and be sanctimonious with the big guy about how you're going to fix them when you're being a scoundrel, essentially. You can't do this. So the leadership that has brought us to where we are today, these aren't the people we need to help guide us through some very difficult, and I would say, using the analogy, uncharted waters, because we really don't know. We've never dealt with a principal, if you will, who says, it's my way or the highway. This is how this is, and means it. It's not about being a bully, or a tyrant. It's about, I told my people this is what I'm going to do. Now,
and unfortunately, my people mean more to me than you.
That's right. That's right. And all this gnashing of teeth and pearl clutching that's going on right now between some of the people in positions of power, with the exception of Alberta's Danielle Smith, who I think is getting a lot of bad press for sticking up for her province.
I think also too that her brand of politics is starting to make other premiers up here sit up and take notice and thinking, maybe we don't want to go down with this ship. Maybe we should be looking at other things. And yeah.
Well, the ship is the ship of state, so to speak, is let's say it's plowing through choppy waters, uncharted waters. The captain's out in Poland somewhere doing stupid things. His subordinates are stabbing each other in the back and accusing each of the other of being disingenuous about how we got here. Yet they're the same ones they'll fix it. Yeah, this is so screwy. That this isn't even a Hollywood. This is a terrible movie. This is silly. This is a bad soap opera.
It certainly wouldn't be scoring high on Rotten Tomatoes, that's for sure.
No, it wouldn't. All right. Well, look, we're at 49 minutes. Let's call it a day. Let's agree to reconvene episode 6 after we get a day or two of what happens.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have lots to say then.
I think we will. Yes. Who knows who will be listening in? Maybe some of that artificial intelligence will be taking over.
This is not good. All right, Bob, I'll see you soon.
You bet.